Saturday Social, brought to you by EA Sports FC with PlayStation 5.
Welcome back to Saturday Social, where we are joined by Nieve and Loz, and the transfer window, I'd say it's around the corner, isn't it, the summer transfer
rapidly
window,
approaching.
So it's got us thinking about tapping into Nieve's knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why the whiteboard is back out. As you can see, we've got every Premier League club represented, as well as the new boys, Leicester and Ipswich, obviously coming up to the Premier League. So we've included them, and we've removed Sheffield United, who have been confirmed as relegation. We've got a player for every single club that you think would be a good option for them to sign this coming summer.
And then Loz is going to critique and maybe chuck some alternates.
Can't critique Nieve.
Let's start with Arsenal, shall we?
Yes.
Who do you think they should sign?
So I thought the obvious approach would be to go with a striker and to maybe look at moving Jesus on and replacing him with a different sort of striker to Havertz. But actually, I don't know how much of this is speculation, but there's reports that these two, Frenkie de Jong and Barcelona, could part ways with the right offer.
Wow.
And I just think when you've got an opportunity to sign a world-class player, you take it. That's how you go from being a fighting for a title team to a title-winning team. You know, this is a player who can control games. And also, there's, you know, Partey could be leaving this summer as well, so it's a replacement player in midfield.
Yeah, you're right. He's in the top 2% of midfielders in Europe. We all know what he can do. But Nieve alluded to that there. Are you surprised that that isn't a number 9? Because that's what Arsenal seem to be crying out for, is from a lot of people on social media say they need a striker. Would you go for a striker for Arsenal, or do you think Frenkie would be a good fit?
Well, you can force goals in other ways as well, right? If you can supply a striker that maybe needs a few more chances from someone who can create a few more, then maybe you upgrade that striker just by proxy being close to those kind of guys. My only thing with him would be whether he crosses over too much on a heat map with a few other players in their team, and if you've got a Rice or Odegaard or even Kai Havertz in that side, is he just a little bit too butting up against them in what he does? And would he maybe see a bigger role at another team where a United or Chelsea or whoever would come
Heavily linked with Man United, wasn't he?
I just think that if Arsenal on the table or Man United on the table right now, it's just such a no contest for a player like Frenkie de Jong, the direction they go in, like you said, Partey potentially leaving,
the only reason why he would leave Barcelona would be because of the desire for more competition as well, in terms of winning things. So I don't think he'd make that swap to someone like Manchester United.
It's to see, isn't it, with Barcelona? Obviously, players like Frenkie and Rafinha
financially
might need to sell. Yes, there could be some big players available.
Villa.
Yeah, who have you gone for Villa? Who do they need to sign this summer?
I've gone with Lutzel Hertrude, which really rolls off the tongue, that one. Which actually, if Arne Slot does end up going to Liverpool,
I think he will.
He might end up bringing him with him to Liverpool. But actually, maybe that's not a position where Liverpool don't necessarily need a player. Whereas for Aston Villa, I think the main thing with Aston Villa is they've done so well, but Unai Emery now can't have sentiment. He's got to constantly evolve this side to keep up. And I think if you were to look at any position on that pitch where they could take to the next level, I think it's Matty Cash. I think they could do better. This guy is great. He's great all round. He's great at tackling and defending, but he's an attack-minded right back. And when we've seen Matty Cash go forward this season, I think he struggled. Looked a little bit out of his depth. This guy won't. So it's an improvement, basically.
You're right. 8 goals, 5 assists this season from fullback.
Let's get him up then.
Very good return.
Let's go to Bournemouth.
Yeah, so for Bournemouth, I've gone with Cedric Kipre. So
Good shout.
It's looking like Lloyd Kelly will be going in the summer, so they'll be losing a centre-back as a free agent. He's a free agent this summer as well.
Yeah,
so I'm just thinking, you know, how can you, cut, make sure you're not losing loads of money. He's not anything like Lloyd Kelly. He's not as fast as Lloyd Kelly. And I think because he's made a few mistakes here and there, even quite erratic, he's not made that jump to the Premier League. But there's a lot of raw talent in him, and he's a real hard worker. He's a bit of a bully in defence. So I think Iraola could get a lot out of him.
Very reliable as well. He's 46.
Yeah.
Starts this season.
Didn't he win Player of the Season, or one of the Players of the Season for West Brom as well?
In a decent West Brom side this year.
I think that's a good point you make about they're not going to have 50, 60 million to spend on a centre-back. So actually the recruitment is key in terms of looking at areas they can bring players in for next to nothing. He's out of contract. So, yeah, decent shout.
Absolutely.
Brentford.
Yeah, so I've gone with Ermedin Demirovic as for Brentford, which, if they lose even Tony, they'll get money for him.
Will they lose Tony this summer, do you think?
I imagine so, and I imagine it's not a bad thing. I think, actually, if they can get a good deal for him, get money in, this guy will be cheaper. He won't be cheap, but he'll be cheaper.
Yeah.
So it'll be a profit margin in terms of that striker position. But there's many of the things he does that can replicate the sort of things that Tony does in terms of goal scoring in the box, but also dropping deep to link up with the other players as well. I think he'll work really well with Mbeumo. But he's had a great season with Augsburg, and other clubs will be interested, so Brentford will have to work hard to get him.
15 goals, 9 assists this
I was
season.
going to say, he's got a lot of assists as well. It's gone under the radar. A lot of people talk about his goal scoring, but he's nearly on double figures for both goals and assists.
That's why I thought his link-up play with the players around him would suit the way that Brentford play.
I agree.
And then the sort of mid-table Augsburg side as well, so it's not like he's doing that in and
good point.
amongst Dortmund and Leverkusen.
Absolutely.
Strong league.
Brighton.
Yeah, so for Brighton, I've gone with Raul Bellanova from Torino. And, you know, Torino defenders featuring should be no surprise under Ivan Juric, who worked with Gasparini, the manager at Torino. He's great at creating that defensive unit and improving defenders. And actually Bellanova, so he was at Inter Milan where he played wing-back. Since then, he's played as a right back, but an attacking right back, and his development at Torino I've been so impressed with. And I think it's an area where Brighton could do with an injection of pace, an injection of speed and power, bursting up and down that right-hand side, stretching the play, and he's great at crossing as well.
Yeah, because they've had Tariq Lamptey in there, haven't they? He's got minutes. Veltman's got minutes in that right-back slot. They've obviously signed Barco in the left-back slot, but it's almost a wing-back style player, isn't it, in that?
You need that in the Premier League.
Zerbi system.
Yeah.
And you can upgrade.
That
like
versatility is important.
It's also minor tweaks to that side. It's not like you can just go in and just wholesale make huge changes. You just need to slowly upgrade that team.
And it now seems like De Zerbi's staying, so
Great. Big
Next up,
build around him.
Middlesbrough fans are not going to like you for this selection.
Yeah,
Nieve.
apologies.
They're not going to want to let him go the
Not
season
easily
he's had.
popular.
Yeah, latte laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's rubbish. I'm sorry, What
What season?
No, so basically, I've looked at David Fofana. I don't
Yeah.
think it's quite worked for him. I don't think he'll stay beyond this summer at Burnley. So it's a replacement I think will work really well with Lyle Foster. And if they do go into that championship, Burnley, you know, you're guaranteed all sorts of goals with him. He can score any type of goal.
They won't want to get rid of him, though, will they? Middlesbrough.
No, they won't. But if Burnley look like they'll get promoted
18
straight
goals
away,
this
if they do
season.
get
Yeah, the squad's
relegated,
still really good. I mean, if you had like Latala, you had Lyle Foster, you had Zeki Amdouni, it's
you're scoring goals, aren't you? And they
Such a
scored
good
so many
championship
goals
forward
last
line,
time
that.
in the championship, Burnley, didn't they? So
Fun project as well to play.
this next one's a controversial pick, I
Yeah,
think.
good,
Nieve.
good season.
Is it?
I think it's a
Who've gone
controversial
for it?
one.
I think
Chelsea?
so. I think perhaps it could be. It will raise eyebrows, Jordan Pickford. I think it will raise. It's raised your eyebrows. I
Eyebrows
can
very
see a
raised.
raised
Well,
eyebrow.
what are your thoughts on it initially before we get Nieve's reason then?
I agree with the pick in that sense, in that they need to upgrade in that area for me.
Yeah.
The opposite side of that is I think there's probably a better goalkeeper available, or a more suited goalkeeper, shall I say.
It is a difficult market, goalkeepers. It's a real difficult market. Once you've got one, you need to keep one. I'm now looking at this and thinking, right, you look at Petrovic and you look at Sanchez and you look at the ability of Pickford at shot stopping, those reflexes, and he's better than those two.
I agree.
Then you look at things like the versatility of things like passing the ball around, doing it for Everton, doing it for England with those, you know, different expectancies from him. He's shown he can do it. But actually, it's the leadership that I'm thinking here.
Sure.
I think Chelsea are desperate for some players on the pitch who take control, keep everyone in check, you look at him, he's always screaming at Everton.
Very vocal,
keeps
isn't he?
that defence in line. It's no wonder that defence is great for Everton with him behind. I
Fourth
think he's
best
one of
defensive
the
record in the
most-
league, Everton, this year.
True.
Well, that's just it. I think he's one of the most over-hated, over-disrespected goalkeepers of this generation. He's brilliant, Jordan Pickford.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but I do wonder if there's another option. If Chelsea have a little bit I don't know if they actually have cash to be able to spend, so I don't even know if they could afford him in the first place. I see what you're saying. The only thing with Chelsea is I think they've probably got to prioritise another position.
Who's the other
Say,
keeper out of interest? You said
Ramsdale, possibly.
you'd go for Ramsdale if you were Chelsea.
Well, I think
Pickford's better than Ramsdale.
I agree with that.
You
in
think
terms
Ramsdale's
of
more attainable than Pickford?
immediately so,
Right,
and I
okay.
think at Everton they're probably going to be like, well, do you want to stay or go? It's just an easier transfer.
He's got a contract to 2027 as well,
Yeah.
Jordan Pickford's
Yeah.
on a long
I-
term.
I-
I can't see that happening with Chelsea,
No, yeah,
personally,
it's a
because
good
of
point.
the
It's a-
fee, but...
But I think Nieve makes excellent points around what Chelsea need. Leadership
Yeah.
is vital.
He's also
there.
an excellent Everton player as well.
Yeah.
He gets
Yeah.
Everton.
Okay,
so
next
Yeah,
up.
it does, doesn't it? Crystal Palace. And you've gone
The
with
return.
Roll
former
it
Palace
back.
player.
Love it.
Yeah, for sure.
50 mil.
Well,
Even
yeah.
though they bought in Munoz recently.
Well, this is the thing. I don't think he would come in to replace Munoz. I think he'd play behind him because you see under Oliver Glasner they play with a back three. Looks like Gahey's on the way the other way, and it'd be good to get some money out of Gahey. Then you look at Chris Richards, Anderson, Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
In a back three.
With
I don't mind
Munoz
that.
as a right wing back. I think it could really work. And also, if you look at the gap between Manchester United, you may have said in previous seasons, he's got that move to Manchester United. He won't want to move back, but the gap between the two is at an all-time low in terms of Oliver Glasner since he's come in. I think they've been sixth in form. Crystal Palace. You look at Manchester United, they've been like 18th or they've been really low down. So yeah, if there is a time, apologies, Joe.
Wow,
for it to happen.
No, Joe, genuinely,
It's a
good genuine
suggestion.
question here. What's the more exciting project?
I mean,
Don't pause, mate. Come on.
It's tough because right now Glasner has got them cooking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially in forward areas. The back three play out from the back really nicely. I don't know whether Wan-Bissaka on the ball would fit into the Glasner system, would be my only question mark. But I think it'd be a great option for him, given that game time appears like it's going to be pretty limited with Dalot being the number one
The
choice.
one thing about Glasner as well is how he's improved certain individuals. Like, you look at Jean-Philippe Mateta's form under Glasner. I think it was like last week, 10 in 12.
Will
it was
Hughes.
like it was half or a third or a quarter of that under Hodgson and Vieira. So there's Will Hughes or certain players that
Wan-Bissaka
he's
needs
really,
to get
get
himself
him up.
back into a
Stick him up then.
positive environment
Agreed.
as well, because
And
he's a great player.
Everton, let's move on.
Great pick.
One player that Everton need to sign this summer. Who are you going with?
Yeah, so
Ndidi.
Wow. And this is working on the idea that Onana is sold and they get a good amount of money for him and they replace that with a free agent. His contract
So you think
ends in
Onana
the
will
summer.
go?
So it's a really good financially wise decision for a club like Everton. We know what he's all about in the Premier League. He's still only like 27.
And he's played a little bit more advanced at times this season at Leicester, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Like his goal involvement numbers are actually pretty. 12 goal involvement.
Six goals, 6 assists this season.
Completely agree in terms of quality. If I was him and I knew my contract was ending, that's probably a deliberate thing. First of all, I would probably not be looking at Everton just because I'm unsure about where the club's going. I think he's got his pick of clubs, and I just think he looks at that and goes, is it?
What do you think his level is?
I think, if I'm honest, I think it's probably slightly above that. I don't think obviously he could go to a Liverpool or something like that, although I'd be very welcome him. I just think I'd look on the continent and go, will a big European side sign me as kind of...
And you look at Leicester and Everton comparably next season, probably quite similar move.
Exactly.
Anyway, yeah.
If not Leicester, slightly
Yeah.
better trajectory.
Okay.
I'm not being mean to
Let's
Everton.
have a look at Fulham's.
Yeah.
Interesting
so it
one.
looks like I hate Leicester.
Yeah, you're battering Leicester.
All of your players.
They've just got
That way,
promoted.
yeah.
They're back in the Premier League.
Yeah, this is the last one I promised Leicester. Yeah, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall.
Player.
He works so well in that Fulham team.
Agreed.
In my opinion, because what he would offer is that different creativity, sort of centrally. They're great sort of in the width areas, Fulham, but he'd offer... I think he could play sort of as a second striker or he could play in midfield. I think what he's benefited from at Leicester is being in the Championship and having a little bit more space, being part of a team that builds up and controls. And his confidence and ability
On the ball, he's
has just
awesome, isn't he?
developed.
He's been one of the best players
Get
in
him
the
up.
Championship this season. 12 goals, 15 assists. I've seen a lot of
Liverpool.
Leicester play and he's been brilliant.
Leicester have been
Is Loz going to be happy with this suggestion or not?
Of course.
Yeah.
I don't hate that as a suggestion. Yeah.
Alessandro Buongiorno, which... I think
Will we say that to him?
it's just whether it's whether or not you think that he'd be ready for that move. I think he cost maybe somewhere around 40 million euros. So
Who do you think he would come in and...
So what I think with him is, I look at Van Dijk and I look at this season, the next season coming ahead, and I think, what would he be, 33 years
up there,
old?
yeah.
And I just think you need to start thinking about his
Matip's
successor.
going to leave, isn't he? This summer, you would think, on a free?
Sure.
Matip, yeah. So I'm
Free up a bit
thinking
of a
he would
space there.
play. He can play both centre-back positions. I'm thinking he would play next to Van Dijk with the intention to take over because he's left-footed, but he can play both sides. But left centre-back's his best.
Cool.
But yeah, he's brilliant. What I'll say about him is he's a very imposing centre-back and he's got lots of ability, but it's his mental attitude I'm most impressed by.
I like that then.
He's really touted to be the future of Italian defensive football.
Can I ask Loz, as a Liverpool fan, one player that you'd like to sign this summer for Liverpool? Or position, should I say? What is the most important position you'd say?
I think we're going to have to replace some leaders in the team. If Salah was to go, I'd prioritise the right wing. And I think centre-back-wise, obviously, Quansah, Gomez, Konate and Van Dijk.
Yeah.
I agree on this shout.
Yeah.
I just think Liverpool are going to prioritise other positions. But I totally agree. We need to preempt the Van Dijk leave.
OK.
Okay, like it.
On to Luton. They're still in the Premier League, as we talked today, so...
Yeah, so Charlie Hughes I've gone for from Wigan. So the reason I've gone for him is because he's only 20 years old, so he's someone for the future, but he's played the second most amount of minutes, only behind the goalkeeper Sam Tickle at Wigan. And Sean Maloney at Wigan, he plays a very sort of build-up, possession-based style, so it's tested Charlie Hughes, but it's made us realise that his ball-playing ability is brilliant, and he's a really solid centre-back. So
right, let's get him out for Luton.
He's a future asset for sure.
Go to Man City.
Who is going to Man City?
Yes, well, this is an interesting one.
Ooh, Joshua Kimmich.
Oh, I don't mind that.
Okay, tell us the reason
This would
behind
be a
that
big signing, wouldn't it?
So his contract ends next year.
Yeah.
And there's hints that Bayern Munich could be willing to let him go. I think the price would be pretty good. It would be a level that you would not expect for a player who's world-class. And don't forget, it was Guardiola that was part of his move from midfield to right-back. And actually, that's where I think City could really do with a player, because they could be looking at sort of a Gundogan-style replacement in midfield, but whilst also, when Kyle Walker needs a bit of a rest, needs a bit of a break, he's someone who can sort of cover. So it's a bit of a versatile option. And also, like I say, it's a world-class, best-in-class player who's 29. The only issue that we've seen in the last couple of years is his legs. Sort of similar to Thiago going to Liverpool.
Talking about the Real Madrid
against Vinicius, he'll have nightmares. But if you pick and choose when and where to play him, you've got a world-class controller and conductor of play.
And everybody's looked a bit off with Bayern this season. The functionality of that team hasn't quite worked, and as such, I think individuals' performances have suffered. Still, one of the best individual
because a lot was made of
midfielders, right backs
Kimmich, wasn't it? A lot was made of that
in Europe. I think it's a great shout. Let's get him up on the board.
I like that. I think a bit of transformation in that midfield is what they need, and real leadership.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
great,
absolutely.
great shout.
Okay, on to Joe's team, Man United.
Yes.
The left
So
back.
I've gone with, I think defenders is where it's needed for Manchester United.
Do you think?
The most important thing for Manchester United is appointments, is getting those off-the-field appointments right and creating a good culture. You know, Sir Jim Radcliffe has said that he's not impressed and that there needs to be a culture shift. So they shouldn't even think about signing someone like Bradley Locko until they change that and create a good environment for a young player like this. Left-backs are hard to come by. Manchester United need a left-back. I think League One defenders translate brilliantly to the Premier League. He's an inverted fullback. He's very athletic in that he's fast, but he's very confident 1v1. He's confident higher up the pitch. I think a lot of his qualities would really suit Manchester United.
As a United fan, what position do you think is the most important to strengthen in the summer?
Central defensive midfield.
DM.
Or centre-back, I think. Although I can totally understand the left-back suggestion because of Luke Shaw's consistent injury problems. You know, Tyrone Malacia has been out for the entire campaign. But I think with the exits of impending, you'd think Varane, maybe Johnny Evans, potentially Victor Lindelof.
How many players in total do you think Manchester United need to sign?
At least 5.
Yeah.
Do you? Summer.
Between 5 and 23, yes.
Classic.
Get to Newcastle.
Yeah, so my original instincts of Newcastle were to suggest a centre-back, just because Paul Dummett's out of contract, Lascelles has had the ACL injury, Sven Botman's had the ACL
as well,
injury. So just, a bit of an injection of pace, but it looks like they might be getting Lloyd Kelly.
And
on a
Tosin,
free,
potentially?
Yeah, Tosin Adarabioyo. But yeah, they're great and they're both free transfers, so what that unlocks is the opportunity to go all out in that right wing position. That's how I think Newcastle go to the next level. I think if they're a bit ruthless on that right-hand side and replace Almiron with someone even better. And that's where I've gone with Takefusa Kubo from Real Sociedad. He is brilliant. Gordon and Isak will thrive off someone like him because even though he's a right winger, he can float around and he's such a good playmaker. He's intricate with the ball. You just can't get it off him. He'd be unreal.
Go on, sorry.
He's also got that history, isn't he? Big club histories, Madrid, Barcelona Academy boys. So it's kind of like he wouldn't be melting in the pressure environment that the Premier League often puts young players in.
I thought with Newcastle, just quickly, we have to talk about Isak because obviously he's such a top player. A lot's been made of him. Do you think they keep Isak this summer, Newcastle, Loz?
I mean, you've got to look at the financial situation. I wonder if they get rid of one, or when I say get rid of, have to let one go, and then you have to bring someone in with more experience or is able to make the most of other people. I just think the Isak thing, if you let him go, other players are going to question what the project is. Then you're probably shooting at someone at this level who seems like a bit of a roll of the dice, right? Rather than, he'll build on that. And also, I think in terms of overall system, you need someone who's been trained in very top-end systems. Like you said, where he's come from, his background, that's going to only work well for Eddie Howe in terms of bringing the best out of players. And
I can see them keeping Isak, no trouble.
Yeah.
Bruno might be a different story, but Isak...
Bruno's got the release clause, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Like 100 million. But Isak, no release clause. I mean...
It'd be a massive fee, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of clubs that would...
well over 100 million
clubs that
pounds.
would want that signature, wouldn't they?
Forest.
Next up, Forest.
Yeah, Liam Delap. Who's been really good. The reason why I went for Liam Delap was because I look at how vital Chris Wood has been to Forest in terms of in the box, not just offensively scoring goals and that presence, but defensively as well. Really helped them out defending set pieces. I think Liam Delap would have that, but then you can build on that as well. He offers a lot more in terms of he's got a higher ceiling. I reckon, honestly, I think if you gave Manchester City around 10 million and you offered a buyback clause, you could strike a good deal to have him.
Because they've driven some hard bargains on exiting academy players, though, City, haven't they? You think even James Trafford going for £20 million, Cole Palmer went for £40 million. So
That's
about
taking a
position,
snip now,
though.
isn't it,
This
Cole
is a-
Palmer for that?
Think about the position and how much City need to drive a hard bargain. I think you could come to a good agreement on Liam Delap.
OK, let's put Liam Delap on the board.
Strikers are hard to come by.
Yeah, they are hard to
Tottenham.
come by. Talking of
You're going with
strikers.
Tottenham, yeah.
Talking of strikers being hard to come by, yeah, I have gone for a striker for Tottenham, Joshua Zirkzee at Bologna. And the reason why is because I don't think it would hurt Tottenham to look at their options going forward. They've got Werner, Kulusevski, Richarlison, Brennan Johnson. I don't think it would hurt to look at one of those and replace them with a player who is naturally and comfortably a central striker.
Yeah.
Just to give Son the option to have someone with
they
him up
played
there.
Son there, they played
I think they look better when Son plays on the
plays
left.
out
I
wide
think
and
when he came on against Arsenal, when he came on against Liverpool, I think both occasions when Son played wide and he had a focal point of Richarlison that was doing the off-the-ball work, they look better.
But I think there's been issues where they haven't had, when Richarlison's been injured or something, like you were saying, they haven't had a replacement, so they've had to put Son in there and play other players out of position slightly. So I think Spurs fans would agree strikers is a position.
Only issue is Bayern have the buyback clause,
do they?
Yeah, that is an issue. With Zirkzee, where I think he'd be perfect for Tottenham, I think he'd be great for Arsenal as well, is the fact that he's so big, but his control of the ball and his comfortability, it's almost like he's got a low centre of gravity, that he's smaller, but then his strength to hold the ball as well is of someone of his stature. He's a confidence player as well, I think, so he'd thrive in a positive environment, which I think he would get under Ange at Tottenham and also at Arsenal as well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how many of those players staying. Obviously, you've got Lo Celso, Hill, you've got a lot of players there. The Richarlison situation,
as well.
to see what movement happens with Tottenham in the summer
if
transfer.
Bayern do trigger that clause, then I think it's
Yeah.
probably Spurs struggle to compete in the...
Well, Dragons in with Spurs and Bayern, wasn't it?
Actually, yeah.
So there you go.
One phone call.
West Ham.
Yeah, so I've gone with Mario Hermoso.
Yeah.
West Ham are a team now that urgently need to look at that defensive rebuild. When you look at the options they've got in defence and the ages of some of the players as well, I look at Mario Hermoso and I think he's a free agent this summer. He's not renewing at Atletico Madrid. The only question of concern is whether or not he would want to go there, if he thinks that he could maybe go a little bit higher, play for a team in Europe. I think Aston Villa are also a little bit interested in him, and Aston Villa will have bigger pull than West Ham. But if they could get him, they've got an experienced, tenacious, brilliant centre-back who can play on that left-hand side and cover that ground, which is an area that I think West Ham could really do with a player.
It's going to be dependent on the new manager, isn't it?
I was going to say, there's
Yeah,
going to be a lot of...
But Lopetegui's got history in that league. He's probably got connections, you'd imagine, with Atletico Madrid. I think it's a really interesting shout.
Yeah.
Wolves.
Yeah, so, Petruzziello, which you could maybe predict means that I'm suggesting that Pedro Neto could be going the other way.
That was literally our next follow-up question,
Yeah, because I think Wolves, I love Pedro Neto. I think he's unbelievable. On his day, he's literally one of the best players in the league in that position.
It's such a shame, the injuries, isn't
But
it?
the injuries, a team like Wolves, you need your best players to be available all the time. So right now, whilst you can get a good amount of money for him, I really don't think it would be a bad idea to...
And we did see Gary O'Neill in the press conference yesterday talking about Wolves are going to have to sell a player this summer in order to buy a player. And, you know, you think of Pedro Neto, you think of maybe João Gomez, don't you, in there? There are sellable assets.
A lot of players they have got rid of. A testament to the job Gary O'Neill's done with who they've let go the last few years. Do you think Pedro Neto, what sort of level do you think he could be at? Do you think he's a player that might leave?
I definitely think he's a player that might leave, and I think we're going to see this a lot more in the coming years as teams try to balance the books a lot more, and it's almost going to make it more interesting because they're forced to sell or they're forced to move on from certain players. I think he can definitely go somewhere higher than Wolves. I don't know if there's anyone who's going to be able to buy him and get the balance of how much they have to spend in order to go the other way.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, you know, he's obviously played for Frosinone all season, but he's a Juventus player. But Juventus, they're about 20 points behind top of the league in Italy. They want to make imminent signings. They need to see improvement imminently. They're looking at Thiago Motta as potential manager. So they could be in a position where they could strike a deal with a team like Wolves, where he goes to Wolves, and again, it's on that sort of loan with option to buy or a buyback clause. You see it a lot in Italy. It's the
loans
model
of obligations,
employ.
loans of options.
Yeah, that's how they do it. I think we could learn from Italy a lot in terms of that. But yeah, he's brilliant. And I think he'd replace Neto in many ways because he can play on both feet as well. He's excellent at creating, and he takes matters into his own hands to get goals, which is what I think Pedro Neto does.
Okay,
So,
get him up.
And then
We are briefly going to do the two promoted clubs. Congratulations, of course, to Leicester and Ipswich. You'll be in the Premier League. What are the two names you've gone for our two promoted clubs, Nieve?
Yeah, so for Leicester, I've gone for Aruna Sangante, and actually I watched Le Havre, who he plays for, last night because they played against Nice. I thought it'd be great to see how he was against Jeremy Boga and Kefren Turam on that side, and actually it was a little bit his fault for the goal.
And you're thinking,
So
we've already printed the magnet.
No, but you hate Leicester, so this is great.
But it's it's that I think could play in Leicester's favour because they could get a good deal for a player who has made the occasional mistake this season, but there's a lot of raw potential.
Yeah.
And he's an absolute warrior. And looking at Leicester City's transfer history with Ligue 1, I think he'd actually really suit Leicester City, and I think Maresca could get a lot out of him, and he could end up being worth a lot more once he's been polished up a little bit.
And you think of some of the players that have classically come out of Le Havre back in the day, the likes of Paul Pogba, I think, you know, high-level ceiling players, so very
Coaching-wise and
interesting shout.
football-wise as well, I think a lot of players would be excited to go to Leicester.
Still only 22 as well, Sangante.
And of course, Ipswich, Kieran McKenna, back-to-back promotions, unbelievable what he's done, but obviously they will be looking in the market and needing to strengthen things. So the main player for you, Ben Sheaf.
Yeah, Ben Sheaf. My first thought was, can I come up with a name who's got Premier League experience? I think all promoted teams need that. I looked at Nathaniel Klein out of contract this summer. But then I thought, no, let's go with a more exciting one. And I've gone for Ben Sheaf at Coventry City because I just think he's been great. I mean, you'd have seen him against Manchester United in the Cup. But what I like
Nervously, that
about-
game.
Yeah, fantastic.
That really good win from you guys. What I love about Ben Sheaf is that he takes control in games. So if you need someone to pass to, those defenders, if they're ever cautious when building the play, he'll be there. He makes himself available. He calls for the ball. He turns quickly. He's got great awareness of what's around him. And I think he'd be integral. And what it would do is it would help Sam Morsey, who's been unbelievable for Ipswich this season, but he's 32. And it would help take the weight off his legs, basically.
Yeah, I wonder if they'd be able to get Amari back as well. Amari Hutchinson. We saw kind of Kieran McKenna, didn't we, say, what do you want for your birthday, Amari, to come back. So I think that could be
Interesting to see if they do something similar to what Luton did, where they get players that have that Premier League experience just to help the squad they've got. You know, they brought in the likes of Ross Barkley, didn't they, and Andros Townsend. Similar. I can see Ipswich doing something similar.
Adebayo, I think, is a...
Yeah. There is confirmation anyway of one player that every Premier League club needs to sign in the summer from Nieve with assistance.
Great shouts in there, by the way.
Some great shouts, yeah, totally agree. Let us know what you think of that at home.